Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia, and today I'm going to be folding some laundry and talking to you guys about traveling with kids. This is a very interesting experience, especially considering the last trip I took was cross country, and it's very fresh on my mind. So I just wanted to kind of go over everything and explain what worked really well for me. And obviously this isn't going to work for everyone, but I did want to share my experience. We traveled about 12 days and we traveled through 12 states. So it was quite a trip, and mind you, it was just me in the car with Orion. My husband, he was driving his own car, so it was basically just me dealing with everything. So I just wanted to go over everything with you guys and kind of help out someone who might need it, because traveling with kids is like no joke, especially toddlers, because they are just very needy in the car. So let's get into it. So we found out about 3 weeks before we left that we were moving, so we didn't really have that much time to prepare. And it's one thing if you're just going, a couple hours on a car trip, but to drive across the country, I feel like you need a lot of time to prepare. And I personally couldn't find anything as far as what I was looking for, so it was a little bit challenging trying to figure out like what all I needed and what would keep him entertained the best. So the first thing I started with was trying to think of like car-friendly activities that he could do, car-friendly snacks that he could have, stuff like that, just because we were going to be in the car for about 6.5 to 7.5 hours every day that we were traveling. And I know that for myself and my husband, we decided not to travel at night. We only drove at night the very first night, and it was going to my mom's house, so it was about a 5-hour trip. For some people that might work better if you're traveling at night, because the kids do tend to sleep, and then you don't have to worry about entertaining them. However, my husband and I, specifically me, get very drowsy in the dark. Some of the things that I found helpful were getting a lot of books, and my Oma actually got this like book thing, busy book, if you will, and it had a bunch of different things on it for him to play with, as well as these like crinkle log things. I don't know what they're called, but those were some of the things that he had for toys. I also made sure to bring a couple of his teddy bears, and we have this little like learning apple thing, and it like goes over like letters, words, all of that. We had that in the car for him. We had a see and say for him, just stuff like that. He really likes the musical books, so the books that you like press the buttons and it sings songs. So we brought a couple of those as well. I also, and I know some people are against letting their kids watch TV, we do let Orion watch TV, so I bought this little holder for my iPad, and I put that on the back of the car seat, or the back of the car seat, not his car seat, but the car's seat, and he was able to watch the iPad. However, I wish I would have known this before the trip. There's actually a way that you can lock the screen, because the issue I was facing is that Orion would like accidentally switch the movie, or he would switch it to an app, or who knows what, and so it would cause the battery to die a lot faster, and he would get very frustrated that like his movie was not playing. So I wish I would have known that going into buying the iPad holder for him to watch that, but lesson learned. So after I got all of that situated, I was trying to think of snacks for him. I know most kids are picky eaters. Orion is not really a picky eater. So we were able to get him just snacks, cheese sticks. We got him milk for the road, and if we stopped and got something for ourselves, we would see if there was anything that he could have as well. So he did really well with eating and everything. Now I will say, probably 2.5 to 3 hours after we started our drive, he would tend to fall asleep, and he would stay asleep for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, sometimes 2. It really depended on like the drive and what we had done the day before. So that was very helpful when he did fall asleep, and sometimes he would fall asleep twice in the car, so that was really nice. However, getting to the hotel after he had taken a nap that long in the car, or that many times in the car, was extremely painful. It really messed our schedule up. So if you think going into this drive, especially if it's a long one, that you're going to be able to keep on a schedule, you just need to go ahead and toss that out the window, because it's not going to happen. And that's okay. It's going to take a lot of like just deep breaths and a lot of writing with snacks and possibly TV if you're one of those parents, but it is manageable. He would not go to sleep until like 10 o'clock sometimes, once we got into the hotel. So it was extremely painful, especially after driving so long during the day, and all I wanted to do was just go to sleep. So just know that going in, especially if you're going on a really long car ride, that everything is just going to be crazy for the next couple of days or weeks. It took Orion about 2 weeks to finally get into the hang of things once we got here. So he's still kind of getting into a routine now, but he's more in a routine now than he was 3-4 weeks ago when we were on our way over here. So those are some of the tips that I have as far as like traveling and what to bring. We also brought a little bag for him for going into the hotels and having stuff to play with. I packed these magnetic building blocks. I don't exactly know what they're called, but he loves those. I brought his beeswax crayons, and I brought some coloring pages for him as well, a soccer ball, and there was something else I brought for him, and I can't remember what it was, but it was in his own little backpack, and I would bring that in with us to every hotel so that way he had something to play with. I also make sure to have a small little thing in the diaper bag full of toys and snacks, so that way if we do go out to eat or anything like that, he has stuff to play with, because Orion is one of those kids that like will just not sit. He doesn't like sitting. He has to be moving around, doing something. So I really have to bribe him with a lot of things: toys, snacks, cartoons, anything like that. I also wanted to say that for guys, please remember to take stickers off of shirts before you wash them. This is the second shirt I have ruined because a sticker was left on it, and just gets all the crap just stuck to it. If you know a way to get that off, can you please let me know in the comments, because it's sticky. One thing I did want to mention that I did get for the car was some organizers for the back of the seats, and so that's where I put all of his books, all of his toys, wipes, diapers, all of that. And it was extremely easy for me to just reach back there, grab a book or a toy, and pass it to him. So I highly recommend that. And a lot of the stuff I'll try and find links to, so that way you guys can have a list of things that will work in the car. Because if you're like me, I don't like mess. And so I really was trying my best to get items that were not messy and that would make the car very organized, because I was already going crazy and I didn't need all of that stress of just like disaster in the car. Going back to getting to the hotels, another thing that was very helpful was picking out 1 or 2 sets of clothes, including nighttime clothes, to bring in with you, and that way you didn't have a lot of stuff to bring in, because we had the animals to bring in, the animals' food, our stuff, Orion's stuff, all of my camera stuff, my backpack with all of our important documents and my computer. Like, we had so much to bring in with us every single time we went to a hotel, and we stopped at like 12 hotels. So to minimize how much we were bringing, I would just grab whatever I needed out of my bag, whatever Orion would need out of his bag, and so that way that's like 2 less items that we're having to bring in, and I found that extremely helpful. And that also goes for like hygiene products. I would just bring the bare minimum. Like, if I needed a shower at a hotel, obviously I would bring like pretty much my whole makeup, or not makeup bag, I would pretty much bring my whole hygiene bag. But aside from that, I would just bring like my face wash, toothbrush, toothpaste, and my makeup. That was it. Now, while we didn't drive at night, we did have the one night we did drive, and what made that a lot easier, transitioning him from the car to the bed when we got there, was going ahead and putting him in his pajamas and nighttime diaper as soon as we started our drive. And I made sure to feed him really well before we drove as well, so that way he wasn't really hungry when we got there. And that is something else to consider regardless of the time, is to make sure you're feeding them very, very well, or at least try to, before the drive, so that way like 20 minutes later they're not just like, I'm hungry, I need a snack. Because obviously it's going to be uncomfortable for them sitting in the car for as long as they are, and they probably will get hungry eventually, but you want to minimize the amount of times you have to stop. And so for me, I felt that feeding him an adequate breakfast when he would eat was the most beneficial for our drives. And that's usually the days I had him eat the most, were the days that we were able to travel the longest without stopping. So it was extremely helpful to do that. Another very helpful thing for when we got to the hotels was finding places that had restaurants in the hotels already, or kind of browsing what was in the area before we got there, so that way when we got there we knew where we were eating and we didn't have to like take a lot of time figuring that out, because usually by the time we got to our destination we were all starving. So I highly recommend that. When you're traveling with kids, you do want to make sure that you allow for enough time for stops. So if you are going to be taking, let's say, a 6.5-hour drive, it's going to take about 7.5, maybe even 8 hours, depending on how many times you stopped. Personally, I try to stop every 2 to 3 hours, usually every 3 hours, just so I can go to the bathroom, stretch my legs, and get a snack. And it's very, very important that you do get out and stretch your legs to prevent any kind of blood clots. So just know that your trips, even though it says maybe 6.5 hours it'll take you to get there, it'll be longer with all of the stops. And it's way more difficult than you think to get the kid back in the car, because obviously they're like, I've already been in the car so long, I don't want to go back in. So I just want you to be aware of that, because that is something that was brought to my attention before we even like started our trip, and I'm so happy that it was, because like it honestly would have made my trip a little bit worse had I not known. Well, that is all of the tips that I have for car trips. It's really not terrible traveling with kids, as long as you have enough for them to do and to keep them occupied and for them to snack on. I will leave everything linked below, so that way you know what I'm talking about, and you guys can see for yourself if it'll work for you. But yeah, just stay safe on the roads and have fun on your trips, and good luck with traveling with the kids. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.